Music has always shaped the stories we tell on screen. From the earliest silent films to the streaming era, the way we use music has evolved dramatically. But somewhere along the way, something strange happened, especially for modern content creators. Instead of music supporting the edit started supporting the music. This is the story of how we got here and how new adaptive tools are helping us move forward. In the early 1900s, film was silent, but movie theatres were not. Music was essential not just to support the story, but to mask the hum of projectors. Most cinemas hired pianists or small ensembles who would improvise or follow cue sheets provided by studios. These cue sheets listed moods, chase, tender moment, mystery, and more. This was, in many ways, the first form of stock music, a library of pre-written pieces that musicians matched to whatever film was screening. As technology advanced, filmmakers could finally synchronize sound to film. This changed everything. Studios started hiring composers to create original scores that were perfectly timed to the action on screen. Max Steiner, often called the father of film music, transformed the industry with King Kong, making the score an emotional engine rather than a background layer. Subsequent film composers such as John Williams and Hans Zimmer all continued the tradition, crafting iconic scores that elevated cinema into an art form. For decades, custom-composed music was the gold standard. But not every project had a Hollywood budget. Educational films, corporate videos, documentaries, later TV adverts, they all needed music too, and they needed it fast. Enter stock music libraries. By the 1980s and 90s, huge libraries of pre-composed tracks were being sold on CD or tape. These tracks were generic on purpose so they could work across many different scenes. As digital media exploded in the 2000s, so did the libraries. Suddenly, creators had access to thousands, then millions of tracks. It was cheap, convenient, and importantly, it was good enough for many projects. But it came with a hidden cost. When a creator downloads a stock track today, it's already mixed, mastered, structured, and finished. The verses, the drops, the build-ups, they're baked in. So you end up with a strange limitation. Editors have to cut their video to fit the music rather than the other way around. Over the last few years, algorithmic tools like Adobe Premiere Pro's Remix feature have tried to solve this. Remix can intelligently stretch or shorten a track by slicing and reordering sections based on patterns and transients. And it does help to a point. But these tools work blindly. They don't understand story beats, character emotion, pacing, or musical meaning. And because they rely on mathematically viable splice points, often tied to BPM and phrase length, they can't always hit the exact duration you need. Try extending a track by just 1 or 2 seconds, and the algorithm might simply refuse because the structure won't allow it. So while Remix and similar tools soften the pain, they don't solve the underlying issue. The emotional architecture of the music is still fixed. This isn't a fringe problem. Stock music is now used everywhere. YouTube videos, TikToks, documentaries, TV shows, even some feature films. Stock music is no longer just a budget solution, it's become the default. But that doesn't mean it's ideal. Today, creators face immense pressure, shorter deadlines, higher output, and audiences with sky-high expectations. Music has to follow the story, the pacing, the transitions, the emotion. But most stock tracks weren't designed for your video, they were designed for any video. And one-size-fits-all rarely fits anyone perfectly. Before we even talk about adaptive tools for filmmakers, it's worth pointing out something surprising and a bit ironic. Adaptive music has existed in video games for decades. As far back as the early 1990s, game composers were building dynamic scores that reacted to gameplay. Early titles used simple MIDI layering, but as hardware improved, AAA studios developed full-blown adaptive audio engines. By the 2000s, middleware like Fmod and WWise made it standard. When the player sneaks, the music calms. When danger appears, percussion ramps up. Games like Halo, GTA, Red Dead Redemption, The Last of Us, and Skyrim all use adaptive systems so the music follows the player's story beats, not the other way around. Which raises a fascinating question. Why did adaptive music become normal in games, but never made the leap into film, TV, or content creation? The answer comes down to workflow. Games use engines, real-time systems that respond to events. Film doesn't. Once an edit is locked, the music is fixed. Stock tracks were never built to adapt. But what if filmmakers and editors could direct the emotional arc the same way game engines do? And what if everyday creators could shape the score in real time without hiring a composer? That's where adaptive music tools come in. Instead of forcing editors to bend their timeline around a fixed track, adaptive music bends the music around the timeline. You set the pacing, you set the arc, you control the emotional flow, just like a film composer would. In recent years, generative AI music has also entered the space. It can produce an endless supply of new tracks, but not necessarily the right track for your edit. Small timing adjustments usually require regenerating the entire piece. You can reprompt endlessly, but it's more like rolling the dice than shaping a score. Today's Gen AI tools can create variations, but they can't yet respond moment to moment to your story. Nor can they be directed with the precision of an editor who needs a specific crescendo right here or a subtle release right after this cut. Adaptive systems solve the problem differently. They keep the music compositionally intact while giving editors continuous, frame-accurate emotional control. This brings us full circle, from improvising pianists shaping music to the moment, to editors doing the same with powerful new tools. Music in film has always evolved with technology, from live musicians to orchestral scores to massive stock libraries. Each step made storytelling more accessible. Adaptive music is the next step. It gives creators the ability to craft a unique emotional journey without sacrificing time, budget, or control. And it ensures that once again, the video leads and the music follows.